First contact and fear. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the primary observation deck of the ESS Vigilant, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she studied the massive holographic display before her. The anomaly they'd detected at the edge of the Kuiper Belt pulsed with an otherworldly energy that defied conventional physics. After 27 years in Earth's Space Defense Force, she thought she'd seen everything. She was wrong. "Admiral, we're detecting quantum fluctuations consistent with a controlled tear in spacetime," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the tension in the command center. "Whatever this is, it's not natural." The tear in space expanded, revealing a sleek vessel unlike anything humanity had ever constructed. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an unsettling void against the star-filled backdrop. Before Chen could issue orders, the ship transmitted a message that automatically translated across all frequencies. "People of Earth, we come with urgent warning." The alien voice carried a mechanical timbre that made Chen's skin crawl. "We are the Arxos, and we have crossed 12,000 light-years to reach you. Your species has been noticed." The command center fell silent. Humanity had long debated first contact scenarios, but nothing had prepared them for this moment. Chen took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders before responding. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Defense Force. We acknowledge your presence and are prepared to establish diplomatic relations." The Arxos representative's response came with an unexpected urgency. "Admiral, diplomatic pleasantries must wait. Your species has unknowingly attracted the attention of something ancient and terrible. The entity, as we know it, consumes civilizations. It has already devoured 17 known species in our galaxy's history." Holographic images materialized throughout the command center, showing entire solar systems being consumed by what appeared to be living darkness. Chen watched in horror as advanced civilizations, their technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities, were systematically erased from existence. "Why warn us?" Chen asked, her tactical mind already racing through implications and possibilities. "What makes Earth worth crossing 12,000 light-years to save?" "Your species possesses something unique," the Arxos explained. "While other civilizations focused on defensive technologies, humanity's peculiar obsession with developing increasingly powerful weapons has not gone unnoticed. The entity feeds on defensive energy. Shields, barriers, and protective fields only make it stronger. But offensive energy, that's different." Lieutenant Rodriguez pulled up data from Earth's classified weapons research projects, his eyes widening as he made connections. "Admiral, they're talking about Project Prometheus, the quantum cascade cannon we've been developing." Chen nodded slowly, understanding dawning. Humanity had always been criticized by their own philosophers and ethicists for dedicating so many resources to weapons development. Now that very trait might be their salvation, and possibly the galaxy's. "The entity approaches," the Arxos continued. "You have perhaps 5 of your Earth years before it reaches this sector. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our cooperation. In return, we ask that humanity does what it does best: build weapons of such magnificent power that they can challenge a god." Chen turned to face her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination reflected in their eyes. Humanity had always feared first contact might lead to war. Instead, it had brought a burden far greater: the responsibility to become the galaxy's defenders. "How many other species know about us?" Chen asked, already formulating plans. "All of them. The galaxy watches Earth with both fear and hope. Your reputation precedes you. The species that turned the development of weapons into an art form. We've observed your history, your conflicts, your constant drive to create more powerful arms. What your kind sees as a violent past, we see as preparation for this moment." The weight of this revelation settled over the command center. Humanity's greatest perceived flaw, their capacity for creating weapons of immense destruction, might be the galaxy's last hope. The irony wasn't lost on Chen. "Send word to Earth High Command," Chen ordered, her voice carrying the weight of history in the making. Tell them we're going to need bigger guns. Much bigger." As the orders went out, Chen couldn't help but smile grimly. Throughout human history, they had always built weapons in fear of the unknown, of what might be out there in the dark between the stars. Now they knew exactly what waited in that darkness, and for the first time, humanity's paranoia seemed completely justified. The Arxos ship transmitted detailed data about the entity, and with each new piece of information, the magnitude of the task ahead became clearer. Humanity would need to create weapons beyond anything they'd ever dreamed of. Weapons capable of hurting something that fed on the very fabric of space-time itself. "We accept your offer of cooperation," Chen declared, her words carrying across the void to the Arxos vessel. "But understand this, if we're going to build weapons to fight your entity, we'll do it our way. Humanity has spent its entire history preparing for a moment like this, even if we didn't know it. Now let's show this entity why picking a fight with Earth was its biggest mistake." The response from the Arxos carried what could only be described as relief. "Then there may be hope yet, Admiral Chen. The galaxy awaits humanity's greatest creation, weapons worthy of gods." As the communication ended, Chen turned to her crew. "Send word to every weapons research facility on Earth. Tell them the greatest arms race in human history has just begun. And this time, we're not fighting each other. We're fighting for the survival of every sentient species in the galaxy." The crew jumped into action, and Chen returned her gaze to the stars. Humanity had always looked to the heavens with a mix of wonder and wariness, building bigger and better weapons just in case. Now that paranoid preparation would become their greatest asset. The galaxy needed humanity not in spite of their weapons, but because of them. It was time to show the cosmos why humans never stopped building bigger guns. Project Titan's dawn. Dr. Maya Patel hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the equations dancing across her holographic display demanded attention. The massive underground facility beneath the Atacama Desert hummed with activity as thousands of Earth's brightest minds worked alongside alien scientists from across the galaxy. Project Titan wasn't just humanity's most ambitious weapons program, it was the largest collaborative engineering effort in known history. "The quantum alignment is still off by 0.03%, announced Zexiville, her Arxos colleague whose multifaceted eyes reflected the blue glow of the displays. "At this scale, that variance could tear apart a continent." Maya nodded, making rapid adjustments to the mathematical models. The weapon they were building defied conventional physics, a cannon designed to punch holes not just through matter, but through the fabric of reality itself. The entity consumed entire solar systems by warping spacetime. They needed something that could fight back on the same level. "Dr. Patel," a voice called from across the chamber. "The test firing chamber is ready." Maya stood, her joints protesting after hours of stillness. The testing facility stretched 3 kilometers underground, carved out of solid bedrock. At its center sat their prototype, a scaled-down version of what would become humanity's greatest weapon. Even at 1,000th the size of the planned final version, it was still larger than an aircraft carrier. "Beginning power-up sequence," Maya announced over the facility's comm system. "All non-essential personnel, please evacuate to safe distances. This is not a drill." The prototype's core began to pulse with an otherworldly light. Arxos technology merged with human innovation in ways that would have seemed impossible just months ago. The aliens had brought their understanding of quantum mechanics and space-time manipulation. Humanity had brought their unparalleled expertise in turning scientific principles into weapons of war. From her control station, Maya watched the power readings climb. They'd failed 17 times before, each attempt teaching them something new about the physics they were trying to harness. But this time felt different. The equations were perfect, the engineering refined through trial and error. "Power at 30% unstable," reported her assistant. "Quantum field coherence maintaining within acceptable parameters." In orbit, satellites tracked the test's effects on local spacetime. They couldn't risk a full power shot on Earth, Even this reduced test could have catastrophic consequences if something went wrong. But they needed proof that the concept worked. 50% power. Field stability nominal. Maya felt sweat bead on her forehead, despite the facility's cooling systems. Years of research, countless sleepless nights, and the combined knowledge of multiple civilizations had led to this moment. They called it the Reality Render Cannon. ROC for short. It was designed to tear holes in the very thing the entity used to consume worlds. 75% power. Minor fluctuations in the containment field. Ezekiville's appendages danced across his control panel, making minute adjustments. The Arxos understood quantum mechanics in ways humans were only beginning to grasp, but humans had an intuitive knack for weaponizing scientific principles that continually amazed their alien allies. 90% power. Fluctuations increasing, but within tolerance. Maya held her breath. This was the point where previous tests had failed, where the awesome energies they were trying to control had torn themselves apart. But not this time. Not when they were so close. 100% power achieved. Field coherent stable. Ready for discharge. The chamber fell silent except for the deep thrumming of the prototype. Maya's finger hovered over the firing control. Beginning target acquisition. Loading test parameters. 1,000 kilometers away, in a designated test zone in the Pacific Ocean, a target buoy waited. It was surrounded by every sensor Earth and their alien allies could devise, ready to measure what was about to happen. Target locked. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The prototype RRC discharged with a sound that didn't belong in normal space, a reality-shredding shriek that made Maya's teeth ache. On her displays, she watched as a beam of concentrated quantum energy lanced out from the facility, traveling through specially constructed conduits to the surface. When it hit the target zone, reality itself seemed to hiccup. For a brief moment, a sphere of ocean simply ceased to exist, not vaporized, not destroyed, but removed from normal spacetime entirely. When it rushed back in, the sensors recorded exactly what they'd hoped to see, a perfect demonstration of controlled reality manipulation. Test successful, Maya announced, her voice barely a whisper. Around her, humans and aliens alike erupted in celebration. They'd done it. The prototype worked. But this was just the beginning. Now they needed to scale it up, way up. The final version would be built in orbit, large enough to challenge something that ate stars for breakfast, and they had less than 4 years to complete it. Remarkable. Ezekiville commented, his alien features arranged in what Maya had learned was an expression of awe. In all our centuries of studying quantum mechanics, we never thought to weaponize it quite like this. Your species has a unique gift, Dr. Patel. Maya smiled grimly. We've had a lot of practice turning science into weapons, Ezekiville. Though I never thought our expertise in building bigger guns would end up saving the galaxy. As the celebration continued around them, Maya pulled up the plans for the full-scale version. The prototype had worked, but scaling it up presented challenges that made her head spin. They would need to build construction facilities in orbit. They would need to mine asteroids for raw materials. They would need to perfect the quantum alignment on a scale thousands of times larger than what they'd just tested. But looking at the joy and determination on the faces around her, human and alien alike, Maya knew they would succeed. Humanity had spent its history building weapons out of fear of the unknown. Now they were building them with purpose, with certainty, and with the combined knowledge of multiple civilizations. The entity was coming, but it would find something very different from what it expected. It would find humanity, armed with the biggest guns the galaxy had ever seen, ready to defend not just Earth, but all of known space. Maya turned back to her equations. They had work to do. The warning shot. Fleet Commander Xaril of the Hegemony Battle Fleet had seen many impressive weapons in his 3 centuries of service. The Centaurian Solar Lance could crack planets. The Vex Collective's time dilation bombs could age entire armies to dust in seconds. But nothing had prepared him for what the humans had built. The massive orbital construction hung above Earth like an artificial moon, its quantum arrays gleaming in the sunlight. The reality render cannon, now complete after 3 years of round-the-clock construction, dwarfed every other structure humanity had ever built. Even from 40 million kilometers away, it dominated the view from his flagship's bridge. Preposterous, his second-in-command muttered. They cannot expect us to believe that primitive humans built this in mere years. Gerald's facial tentacles twitched in amusement. The hegemony had sent their fleet to investigate rumors of humanity's weapon development, refusing to believe the reports from their intelligence networks. How could a species that had barely mastered faster-than-light travel create something of this magnitude? Open a channel to their command, Tarl ordered. The humans had detected their arrival hours ago, but had made no hostile moves. Curious, Admiral Chen's hologram materialized on the bridge. The human looked tired, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. Fleet Commander Xarel, you're a long way from hegemony space. Admiral Chen, the Hegemony Council demands an explanation for this weapon of mass destruction. Your species has no right. We have every right, Chen interrupted, her voice steel. The entity approaches, and we've chosen to fight. The Arxos brought us warning, and we're preparing accordingly. Xarel's secondary hearts skipped a beat at the mention of the entity. The Arxos are fearmongers, spreading tales of ancient destroyers to manipulate younger races. We of the hegemony have maintained peace through controlled weapon development for 10,000 years. We cannot allow. A new hologram appeared. Dr. Maya Patel, whose name had become known across the galaxy. Perhaps a demonstration is in order, Admiral Chen. Chen nodded. Agreed. Fleet Commander, please observe. We've prepared a demonstration that should address your concerns about our capabilities. Xarel wanted to object, to demand they power down their weapon, but curiosity got the better of him. The humans had always been fascinating in their approach to problems. Direct, often inelegant, but undeniably effective. The reality render cannon began to hum with power. Even at this distance, his ship's sensors detected quantum fluctuations that shouldn't be possible. Energy readings exceeded anything his instruments were designed to measure. Target acquired, Patel announced. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The beam that erupted from the cannon defied description. It wasn't energy in any conventional sense. It was a tear in the fabric of reality itself, contained and directed with terrifying precision. The beam shot past the hegemony fleet, deliberately missing them by a comfortable margin, and continued into the void. Observe the third planet of the red dwarf system ahead of us, Chen suggested. It's uninhabited, Class K, roughly Earth-sized. Through his ship's enhanced viewing systems, Xarel watched as the beam struck the distant planet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, in a display that would haunt his dreams for years to come, a perfect sphere of planetary matter simply ceased to exist. 1/4 of the planet vanished, not destroyed but removed from reality itself. The remaining 3/4 collapsed in on themselves, the planet's gravity well turning it into a spectacular field of debris. Silence fell across the hegemony fleet. The level of precision required to remove exactly 1/4 of a planet, to control such power with surgical accuracy, was beyond anything they had thought possible from such a young species. That, Chen said calmly, was at 15% power. Would you like to see what it does at full capacity? Xarel found his voice. That won't be necessary, Admiral. His tentacles writhed in agitation. The Hegemony Council will want to know why you built this monstrosity. You know why, Maya interrupted. The entity isn't a myth, Commander. The Arxos showed us proof. It's coming, and it feeds on defensive energy, on exactly the kind of protective technology your hegemony has been developing for millennia. When it arrives, those defenses will only make it stronger. But this weapon, Xarel gestured at the massive cannon, is offensive, Chen finished. Pure destructive force, targeted and controlled with precision your scientists thought impossible. We built it because that's what humanity does. We see a threat, and we build something bigger to fight it. The entity expects to find worlds cowering behind shields. Instead, it's going to find humanity, armed with the biggest gun in the galaxy, ready to punch holes in reality itself. Terrell studied the humans' faces, seeing not bloodthirsty warriors but determined defenders. They hadn't built this weapon for conquest or glory. They'd built it because something needed to be built, and they were the only ones crazy enough to try. The Hegemony Council will need to discuss this development, he said finally. Discuss quickly, Chen advised. The entity will reach this sector in less than 2 years. We'll need every resource we can get to build more weapons like this. The RRC is just the beginning. As Carl ordered his fleet to withdraw, he couldn't help but marvel at the humans' audacity. In just a few years, they'd taken their primitive understanding of physics and combined it with alien knowledge to create something that rewrote the rules of warfare. Perhaps, he realized, that was why the entity was coming here first. It had sensed in humanity a threat it needed to eliminate quickly. The entity was in for a surprise. Humanity hadn't spent its history building weapons just to cower now. They had looked into the darkness between the stars, seen something looking back, and decided to build a gun big enough to shoot it in the face. The warning shot had been fired. The galaxy would never be the same. The Coalition, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Assembly, had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 300 species packed the massive amphitheater, their varieties of breathing apparatus and environmental suits creating a symphony of mechanical sounds. At the center podium, Admiral Chen stood alongside Dr. Maya Patel, facing the assembled leaders of known space. The Hegemony's demonstration footage played above them in high-definition holography. The reality render cannons beam, the disappearing quarter of a planet, the precision of the strike. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated voices and electromagnetic communications. The humans have exceeded all projections, announced Supreme Architect Val Zen of the Machine Collective, their crystalline form refracting light as they spoke. Our initial calculations suggested they would require decades to achieve this level of quantum manipulation. They had help, growled Representative Kithor of the Hegemony. The Arxos provided them with restricted technologies. We provided knowledge. The Arxos ambassador interrupted, their multifaceted eyes glowing. The humans provided innovation beyond anything we imagined possible. They took our understanding of quantum mechanics and weaponized it in ways we never considered. Maya stepped forward, her voice carrying across the chamber. The reality render cannon is just the beginning. We've already begun construction on 2 more, and our engineers have designs for specialized variants. But we need your help. She gestured, and new holographic displays materialized, showing construction plans and resource requirements. The entity will arrive in 18 months. 1 cannon, even 3, won't be enough. We need resources, construction capacity, and most importantly, we need your species' unique insights. The chamber fell silent as Maya continued. Every species here has something to contribute. The Vex Collective's temporal engineering, the Centaurians' energy-focusing crystals, the Machine Collective's quantum computing. Combined with human weapons innovation, we can build an arsenal capable of challenging even the entity. Admiral Chen stepped forward. We're not asking you to depend on humanity to protect you. We're asking you to join us in building something unprecedented. A coalition of species working together to create weapons that can challenge a god. The Hegemony representative's facial ridges darkened. And who would control these weapons? Humanity. We all would, Chen replied. Every species that contributes will have representation in the command structure. We'll build fail-safes, checks, and balances. This isn't about human dominance. It's about survival. All of our survival. The Machine Collective's representative moved forward, their crystalline form humming. The humans speak truth. Our predictive matrices show the entity's arrival will doom us all if we do not act. We vote to join this coalition. One by one, species began to pledge their support. The Vex Collective offered their temporal manipulation technology. The Centaurians promised their stellar engineering expertise. Even the hegemony, after hours of debate, agreed to contribute their vast industrial capacity. As the pledges continued, Maya worked with representatives to begin immediate coordination. Shipyards across the galaxy would be converted to produce components. Quantum computers would be linked across light years to run simulations. Every species would contribute what they did best. In her private quarters that evening, Maya reviewed the day's developments with Admiral Chen. "It's really happening," she said, still somewhat amazed. "The entire galaxy working together." Chen nodded, studying the real-time displays showing construction beginning across dozens of star systems. Fear of the entity brought them together. But it's hope that's keeping them here. Hope that we can actually win this fight. The Arxos were right about us, Maya mused. Other species spent millennia developing defenses, trying to hide from the darkness between the stars. Humanity looked into that darkness and decided to figure out how to shoot it. And now we're teaching the rest of the galaxy to do the same. Chen added with a slight smile. Did you see the Centaurians' proposal for incorporating their solar lance technology into the RRC design? Or the Vex Collective's idea about temporal warhead delivery systems? Maya nodded excitedly. Once we showed them it was possible to weaponize quantum mechanics at this scale, their scientists started coming up with applications we never imagined. The Machine Collective's targeting systems alone will improve our accuracy by 300%. A notification chimed, and new data streamed across their displays. The first joint construction project had just come online. A massive fabrication facility in orbit around Jupiter, combining human engineering with alien technology. Similar facilities were being built in systems across the galaxy. 1 year and 6 months, Chen said quietly. Think we'll be ready. Maya pulled up the latest simulation data. The entity's approach was visible now, a wave of darkness consuming the light of distant stars. But where before it had encountered civilizations hiding behind shields and barriers, this time it would find something very different. We'll be ready, Maya assured her. Humanity spent its entire history preparing for a fight like this, even if we didn't know it. And now we've taught the galaxy to do what we do best, build bigger guns. Chen smiled. The entity thinks it's hunting us. It's about to find out that humanity doesn't hide from monsters. We build weapons big enough to hunt them back. Across the galaxy, construction continued. Species that had once viewed humans as primitive upstarts now worked alongside them, learning to combine their advanced technologies with humanity's unique talent for weaponization. The coalition grew stronger by the day, united in purpose and determination. The entity was coming. But this time, it wouldn't find civilizations cowering in fear. It would find humanity, standing with their alien allies, armed with weapons that could tear reality itself apart. The greatest arms race in galactic history was underway, and humanity was leading the charge. The final stand. It came from the direction of the galactic core, a wave of absolute darkness that consumed light itself. Stars winked out one by one as the entity approached, leaving behind nothing but void. But this time, the galaxy was ready. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Vigilant, now upgraded with technology from a dozen alien species. The holographic display showed the combined fleet of the coalition. Over 10,000 ships from 300 species, all coordinated through quantum-linked AI systems provided by the Machine Collective. Entity will enter weapons range in 30 minutes, announced Maya through the quantum comm. She was coordinating from the central weapons platform, a massive installation that made the original reality render cannon look like a prototype, which in many ways it had been. Around Earth, 5 next-generation RRCs hung in geosynchronous orbit, their quantum arrays gleaming. Similar installations protected key worlds across the galaxy, all linked through Vex Collective temporal networks that allowed them to fire in perfect synchronization across light years of space. All coalition ships report ready, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, his console displaying status updates from vessels of every known species. Hegemony dreadnoughts are in position. Centaurian solar lance platforms armed. Machine collective targeting systems at full power. Chen took a deep breath. Everything humanity and their allies had built over the past 18 months was about to be tested. Send the signal. All ships, battle positions. The coalition fleet moved with practiced precision, forming the massive three-dimensional pattern they had drilled countless times. Each ship's position had been calculated by the most advanced computers in known space, optimized to support the coming assault. Entity approaching final defense line, Maya reported. First visual contact in 5 minutes. Chen watched as the wave of darkness appeared on their long-range sensors. It was massive beyond comprehension, a tear in reality larger than most solar systems. Where it passed, the fundamental forces of physics simply ceased to function. All RRC platforms, begin power-up sequence. Chen commanded. Coordinate with coalition vessels for the first strike. Across the galaxy, weapons of unprecedented power hummed to life. Humanity had started this arms race, but every species had contributed their own innovations. The Vex Collective had developed temporal warheads that could damage the entity across multiple timelines simultaneously. The Centaurians had perfected crystals that could focus the reality-rending beams with impossible precision. Entity has noticed our presence. Maya's voice was tense. It's accelerating. Of course it had noticed. They had built the largest array of offensive weapons ever created. The entity had come to this galaxy expecting to find civilizations cowering behind their shields, ready to be devoured. Instead, it found humanity and their allies waiting with the biggest guns in the universe. All ships, stand firm, Chen ordered. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The entity's approach was visible now even to the naked eye. A wall of darkness that consumed the stars themselves. But where before it had encountered fear, now it found determination. Where it expected shields and barriers that would make it stronger, it found weapons designed to tear it apart. Entity entering optimal firing range in 30 seconds, Maya announced. All weapons platforms report ready. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had spent its entire history building bigger and better weapons, preparing for threats they couldn't even imagine. Now, facing the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known, all that preparation was about to pay off. All units, prepare to fire on my mark, Chen commanded. The coalition fleet's weapons charged in perfect synchronization. Reality render cannons, temporal warheads, solar lances, and weapons that had no names in human languages. The entity surged forward, perhaps sensing the threat too late. For millennia, it had consumed civilizations that tried to hide behind their defenses. It had never encountered a species that had spent its entire history preparing to shoot back. Fire. The reality render cannons fired first, their beams synchronized through quantum networks to strike simultaneously. Where they hit, they tore holes in the entity's substance, ripping apart the very forces it used to consume reality. The coalition fleet opened fire a microsecond later, their weapons enhanced by technology from a dozen species. The entity recoiled for the first time in its ancient existence. It tried to feed on the energy being directed at it, but these weapons were different. There were no shields to absorb, no barriers to consume. There was only humanity's gift to the galaxy, the art of building weapons big enough to hurt gods. Direct hit. Maya's voice was triumphant. Entity showing signs of destabilization. All platforms, adjust targeting and prepare for second volley. The battle raged for hours. The entity fought back with weapons of its own. Tentacles of void that could erase matter from existence, waves of anti-reality that would have consumed worlds. But humanity had spent 18 months preparing for exactly this fight, and they had taught the rest of the galaxy to do the same. When the final shot was fired, when the entity finally broke apart and dissolved into quantum foam, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The greatest threat known to existence had been defeated not by shields or barriers, but by humanity's simple philosophy. If something threatens you, build a bigger gun. In the aftermath, as the coalition fleet regrouped and damage reports came in, Chen received messages from commanders of every species. They all said essentially the same thing. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever. Where once civilizations had sought safety in defensive technology, now they understood the human way. Sometimes the best defense is a really, really big gun. We did it. Maya's hologram appeared on the bridge, her exhausted face beaming with pride. Every simulation said this was impossible, but we did it. Chen nodded, watching as the void where the entity had been slowly filled with normal space again. We did it the human way. We looked into the darkness between the stars, saw something looking back, and decided to build weapons big enough to make it regret that decision. Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted on every inhabited world. Species that had once viewed humans as primitive newcomers now hailed them as saviors. The coalition that humanity had built would outlast the crisis that created it, becoming a new galactic order based not on fear of the unknown, but on the determination to face it head-on. And if anything else was watching from the darkness between the stars, they would find a very different galaxy than the one the entity had expected to consume. They would find humanity, standing with their allies, armed with the biggest guns in the universe, ready to defend not just Earth, but all of known space. After all, that's what humans do best. They build bigger guns. And now, they had taught the galaxy to do the same.